Productive workers within the workforce have the opportunities. We're talking about 2 million fewer women in the workforce than were pre-COVID. And when we're talking about economic recoveries, we're talking about economic momentum. We need women involved. We need people of all races involved as well. And, you know, it's not just something we're interested in or CEOs. The Federal Reserve over in San Francisco and other Fed members, they are definitely interested in it as well, Vermain.
Yeah, and that's when we talk about the Fed and its reaction function there. Of course, a lot of that has to do with sort of how they view the labor market. Of course, they've been talking a lot about that labor market and full employment within the context of sort of the racial disparities, but the gender disparities, certainly something that Powell himself has also pointed out. He actually pointed out earlier in that interview with Rubenstein midweek that we had.
All right, for those of you watching on Bloomberg TV, listening on Bloomberg Radio, our Beyond the Bell simulcast, one thing I want to point out for everybody, one of the most read stories on the Bloomberg today was an exclusive by Spencer Soper on Amazon. Now they're going to assemble our furniture for us, guys.
Wayfair gives me just what I need.
Does that mean, Tim, you're not going to buy from Amazon, have them put together your bed?
I'm not ready to have random people come in my home quite yet. But look, this is the thing that drivers are not too happy about. As Spencer reports, they are a little concerned. Yeah, it is a game changer for Amazon, but those drivers are a little concerned about what it means for them because they got to learn how to assemble all of this stuff.
I mean, half the time they come to deliver package, they just ring the bell and run away.
They just want to be everywhere. All right, that does it for our cross-platform coverage on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg TV, and on YouTube.
Happy Friday.
We'll see you back Monday, same place, same time. Happy Friday indeed.
This is Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Massar and Bloomberg Quick Takes Tim Stenovic on Bloomberg Radio.
So wrapping up what was kind of a jam-packed week, and we just talked about a little bit with our Bloomberg TV colleagues, but let's not forget earnings were just getting started, but the big banks always helping to set the tone, and as you said, some really important economic numbers.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to next week if you're a nerd like me and you love earnings because a third of Dow companies are set to report, Carol. This is what we call the thick of it. I love it. It happens every quarter, and we get to learn a lot about how companies are thinking about the health of the economy and how they did last quarter.
I like it, too, because it's an opportunity to read those investor or CEO letters, see what they have to say, listen to the calls, hear what they have to say about outlook, where they see some concerns. It just gives us, it's a gut check. It's something that's really important. I get concerned about being focused to quarter and being short-term, but it does let us hear from the executives about the outlook.
What derails this rally? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Overvaluation, or do we just kind of see a little bit of a pullback at some point and then resume upward? All right, you have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Good week. All right, let's get back to world and national news. Over to Nancy Lyons in D.C. Hey, Nance.
Hey, Carol. Well, we're waiting for a joint news conference with President Biden and Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. It is the first visit by a foreign leader since Biden took office. Well, the Biden administration is denouncing gun violence following the nation's latest deadly mass shooting. 8 people were gunned down at a FedEx facility in Indianapolis. The suspect took his own life. Authorities are confirming the shooter was a former employee. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says it's time for tougher gun laws.
The president has spent his entire career working to address gun violence, and his determination to act has been redoubled by senseless killings we've seen both in mass shootings like this and in the lives lost to the epidemic of gun violence every single day in communities across our country.
Psaki says the administration is horrified by the shooting. In San Antonio today, 2 people are dead. Another 2 are injured, including a police officer after a shootout during a traffic stop. Well, many mental health experts predicted that the COVID-19 pandemic would lead to a perfect storm for suicides, depression from lockdowns, combining with grief from the virus itself. As Bloomberg's Nathan Hager reports, the numbers might not bear that out.
A study in the Journal of the American Medical Association shows the number of suicides last year actually fell by 5%. It's the second year in a row suicides have dropped after a peak in 2018. At the same time, the New York Times reports preliminary studies from local communities suggest a jump in suicides among Black Americans and other people of color. Federal health officials have yet to release a racial breakdown on suicides nationwide. In Washington, I'm Nathan Hager, Bloomberg Radio.
Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts.
If knowledge is power, the Bloomberg Terminal is your power up, connecting you to the real-time financial news, data, and analytics that can take your workflow to the next level. Power up at Bloomberg.com/professional.
Coordination to read the latest business news while spreading jam on toast. Listening takes no effort at all.
It had a major beat on industrial free cash flow.
Bloomberg Daybreak.
President Biden is pushing up the timeline.
Karen Moscow and Nathan Hager.
We have a deal in the gambling industry.
Weekday mornings at 5 Eastern.
Officials have a warning for hedge fund managers.
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
The composer Joseph Haydn famously said, "I listened more than I studied."
It sounds like a law school hypothetical.
Here at Bloomberg, it's the same thing.
Do you maintain that low rate regime? Can you see out 2 years?
How do you build a strategy with that eventuality in mind?
Experts, information, news.
The push sets up a potential fight.
What do we know about how it will go public?
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Right now, Doctors Without Borders medical teams are operating in some of the most remote and dangerous corners of the world. When front yards become front lines, at the crossroads of conflict and epidemic, where there are no hospitals, that's where we operate. Your response is critical to our response, in places where few others will go. That's where we operate. Learn more at doctorswithoutborders.org.
Economics.
All this doom and gloom was out there finance.
Do you see this as a technical correction?
Investment.
What are you looking at to give you some sort of compass through this period?
The Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast.
Lots and lots of talk about what the Fed should and shouldn't do.
Tom Keene, Jonathan Ferro, Lisa Abramowitz, and the names that shape the world's markets.
We speak with Professor Schiller of Yale University.
Bloomberg Surveillance. Listen today at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Every weekday, Matt Miller and Paul Sweeney ask a few of the top market makers and analysts for their opinions. And while it's polite to listen to everyone,
does it make sense that Tesla is worth $660 billion in market cap?
It's more productive to listen to the best.
What's the data that you guys really look at?
Bloomberg Markets, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern.
What do you expect from Jerome Powell?
On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
For the Jewish Communal Fund, past president Noel Spiegel.
People often ask me why it's important to use JCF for their charitable giving. I tell them that JCF has a profound impact on our community. Thanks to the revenue generated from our funds, JCF makes an annual $2 million grant to UJA Federation of New York and makes grants from our endowment, the Special Gifts Fund. This year, we proudly granted more than $800,000 to support a kosher food pantry at Mid-Island YJCC, Jewish daycare at the Ed Alliance, a renovation at Camp Oakhurst, and an intergenerational Holocaust program at Ramaz. I'd like you to hear about our impact from a past Special Gifts Fund recipient.
Plaza Jewish Community Chapel is most grateful to JCF for supplying seed money to start the organization. Almost 10,000 families have relied on Plaza to provide an affordable yet dignified Jewish funeral.
Let JCF maximize your impact. Visit jcfny.org or call 212-752-8277.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children,
or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit hud.gov/fairhousing. That's hud.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Headquarters. I'm Charlie Pellet. S&P Dow and the week at records. Stocks advanced as Chinese growth data added to signs of a global economic recovery. S&P capped its fourth straight weekly advance as the strong data from Asia joined a raft of robust readings in the U.S. economy that's boosting sentiment. S&P up 15 to end the week at 4185, a gain of 0.4%. The Dow up 164, up 0.5%. The Dow at 34,200. 10-year yield 1.59%. Gold up $11 the ounce, higher by 0.7% to 17.75. West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.6%, 63.11 for a barrel of WTI. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
It is indeed. All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Well, there's a lot going on in the world of EVs. You know that if you listen and watch Bloomberg, especially as major automakers are ramping up their offerings, really looking to give Tesla some challenges. Just yesterday, we heard about Mercedes-Benz entering a new era with its flagship S-Class sedan going electric. Well, here with a roundup of the best electric vehicles of 2021, though, with some caveats and metrics in mind, is Brian Moody. He's executive editor for Auto Trader. He's with us on the phone in Atlanta. Brian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. Happy it's Friday, to say the least. First of all, tell us about the metrics you use to evaluate the EVs that are out there, because you did come up with kind of a top list of EVs.
We did. So one of the things that we included was the car had to have a plug. And so we didn't include hybrids, but we did include plug-in hybrids. So they're both electric only and plug-in hybrid vehicles. We also put the price cap at $75,000. And we wanted to only include cars that would be available within the next 6 months to the public, so that it would be, it would be meaningful to someone who's going to buy an electric car.
All right. So notably absent is Tesla. Is it that dollar mark that knocks it out, or what?
No, because Tesla actually has a couple of cars well under that price range. Last year, we do this list every year. Last year we had the Model 3 on our list. Mm-hmm. It is a fun car to drive, and we also like the way it looks. But one of the reasons we didn't include it this year was because of increasing competition, for one thing, and a lot of us didn't care for that main central screen that controls everything. A more traditional screen with also gauges where you expect them to be, we thought was safer and more in line with what people would expect from a car.
All right, so it was reviewed, but you guys just didn't really like it as much.
Yeah, and it's a good car. I think if someone was looking for an inexpensive electric car that's fun, and that's your main criteria, I would say you should be looking at cars like the Hyundai Kona, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and that's in addition to many others that, we have a list of 10. Can't include everything.
Let's talk about them, and that's fair. And what's interesting, when I was looking at your list, I'm like, wow, there's a fair amount of EVs out there. So walk us through the list, some of the standouts, based on your analysis.
Well, one standout that's really telling is the new Chevy Bolt EUV. And what that is it's more of a crossover SUV type version of the Chevy Bolt we already know. So that tells you right there, Chevrolet knows something about making money and about making cars that people want. Crossover SUVs is where this is going. We also like the Toyota RAV4 Prime. Again, same type of thing. The Volvo XC40 Recharge, an all-electric small Volvo SUV. And then the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is a Mustang in name, but it has more of a sits high up off the ground and has more of a crossover SUV type of feel. You see a theme here? People like SUVs.
Yeah, well, listen, right? I mean, that's the one thing, I guess, when it comes to the EV market, right? Do makers, manufacturers, they need to be thinking about really kind of the cars people want to be driving if they're, hoping to kind of juice those EV purchase numbers.
Right, that's exactly right. Now, there are plenty that aren't SUV-based. For example, the Nissan Leaf is an affordable one that we like. But when it comes to cars like, say, the Hyundai Ioniq, well, those aren't SUVs. That's just a regular car. But there's also a good number of plug-in hybrids. We should put a couple of those on the list, too, because we feel like it bridges the gap between fully electric and some concerns people might have, and fully gas that has its own set of concerns. And one of the best of those is the Lincoln Aviator. It's a plug-in hybrid that goes for 21 miles on electric only, then gas and electric combined to get great gas mileage.
Well, what is it that people want right now? What's the consumer demand? Do they want the hybrids? Do they want completely electric vehicles? What are still their concerns? I do feel like the infrastructure is still lagging when it comes to support of the electrical vehicle market.
Right, I don't think that the confidence is there. So what people want are trucks and SUVs.
Yeah.
And when you can give them an electric version of that, and this is the important part, convince them that they will never be without a way to refuel or recharge, that's when it's going to, really make a difference. There's a lot of electric trucks coming, but they're just not here right now.
Well, do you feel like with the president's infrastructure plan, and certainly there's allocation for things like this, and building out the infrastructure for electric vehicles, we're going to need to have some kind of program like that in order for EVs to really take off in this country?
Probably yes. But here's the one thing that concerns me is that if it was, the way the market works, the way the economy works is that it's market-driven, it's demand-driven. Competition makes great things. Why don't we see gas stations ramping up their electric charging stations to make stacks of money? I don't know the answer, but the fact that it's not happening makes me think that there's something that we aren't really aware of at this point. The cars are good, and they can be charged up at home, but that's not enough for some people.
Well, who owns gas stations in the U.S.? Are they franchises, or they're owned by the big, integrated oil companies who are kind of working their book there, no?
Right, and many are franchises, so they're probably making more money on selling coffee and Twinkies than they are selling gas.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hey, when you look ahead to this year, I do feel like all of a sudden there is a lot of momentum, whether it's Volkswagen, whether it's Mercedes, whether it's, pick your well-known auto manufacturer. It does feel like all of a sudden everybody's all in on EVs.
Yes, and I'll tell you something that you just mentioned that I find very encouraging. The Volkswagen ID4 that you just mentioned is a very compelling car, no matter how it's powered. So it is an all-electric car. That's the only way it comes. But it's good looking. It's fun to drive. The interior is great. The part that it's electric, I don't know that younger drivers are going to care that much as they get older. They just want something cool. That new Volkswagen is just cool no matter what.
Interesting. I know my daughter likes Volkswagens, and checking that out. Hey, Brian, thank you so much. Have a really wonderful weekend. Brian Moody, who's executive editor at Auto Trader, joining us on the phone from Atlanta, talking about their list of the best electric vehicles of 2021. You can also find it if you go online and check them out on Twitter at autotrader_com. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. We've got a special guest to wrap up our week. We're going to talk about arts, culture, and the pandemic. This is Bloomberg.
This is
The world's financial decision makers connect on the Bloomberg terminal. The buy side and the sell side together, collaborating across markets and countries in real time, sharing ideas, negotiating trades, and forming an influential network of over 325,000 financial professionals that helps power global markets. Isn't it time you join them? Request a demo at bloomberg.com/professional.
Bloomberg Money Minute. Economic optimism produced modest gains on Wall Street, sending stocks into the weekend at all-time highs. The Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed 165. The S&P 500 gained 15. The Nasdaq rose 13. An electrical problem that led to dozens of Boeing 737 MAX jets being taken out of service last week may be worse than first thought. Boeing tells the Wall Street Journal the issue affects more areas of the flight deck than was previously known. Food delivery startup Imperfect Food says it will challenge a vote by its drivers to unionize. About 80 drivers voted by a narrow margin to join the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union. A new study suggests that working moms are having a tough time as the economy recovers. The San Francisco Fed reports there are nearly 2 million fewer women in the labor force than before COVID. Many of them are women with kids. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
If you're the kind of person who gets nervous when there's no news,
what's the administration's message to progressive members of the House?
Then consider this your relaxation zone.
We're all looking to travel reopening.
The latest business and financial news.
Doesn't that necessarily help your investments?
Why did it have the opposite effect?
For those who really, really need it.
That's how we knew that things were coming undone.
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Climate change is at the center of everything. Bloomberg Green is at the center of solving it. Backed by powerful data and a global newsroom, Bloomberg Green is focused on solutions and the greatest opportunity of our generation. Bloomberg Green, solutions for a changing climate. In partnership with General Motors, JLL, and Standard Chartered. Visit Bloomberg.com/green.
First, I hold my hands out like they're on a steering wheel. Then I look over my shoulder. 1, okay, cool guy. 2, 3 times. Next, oh, I put it in reverse. Meep, meep, meep. Then I take it up and down, up and down. And that, kiddos, is called the forklift.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now that's dancing. Sure beats flossing. Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The following is a message from PGIM.
Welcome to Outsea in 60, Perspectives from PGIM Thought Leaders. Here's Lisa Davis, Impact Investing Portfolio Manager at PGIM Real Estate.
I think we used to believe in ESG circles that climate change was the great systemic risk to financial markets that we needed to find a way to account for. And the challenge was to connect the individual investments that we were making to addressing climate risk at a systemic level. I think the challenge now that I see is that inequality around the globe is an equally important systemic risk, often connected to climate risk, that we have to address in financial markets.
Hear more PGIM perspectives at pgim.com. That's PGIM.com. Partner with PGIM, the investment management business of Prudential. These statements are not intended to be investment advice and should not be used as the basis for any investment decision.
How are financial services firms managing in this new reality? Claire Santaniello, Managing Director at BNY Mellon's Pershing, explains.
If the current times have taught us anything, it's the critical role that technology plays in client relationships. Global conditions have created a business imperative for firms to digitally transform the way they meet client needs and the way they work. Pershing's industry-leading technology enables you to adapt to the evolving ways your clients want to do business, now and in the future, and can help you build an even stronger digital client experience in a simpler, smarter, and safer environment. We have worked with clients of every size to transform their business. Pershing gives you the foundation to stand on, plus our unique perspective, to help you run your business even during the most uncertain of times. We help you consider everything.
To learn more about how Pershing can help you transform your business, visit Pershing.com. Pershing LLC, member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org, brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
everything seems to be in motion.
The macro clearly being driven by the coronavirus outbreak.
But here,
the narrative is driven by uncertainty.
You're on solid ground.
Looking forward to guiding you through all of this.
Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg. The world is listening. Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 1061 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. We've talked a lot about how the worlds of culture, art, have been shut down in the last year because of the pandemic. We're going to get one view on that from the co-founder of Soho Muse. She's Consuelo Vanderbilt Costin, and she'll be our guest in just a moment. First up, though, another check on the world of business. Let's get to Charlie.
Hi, thank you very much, Carol Master. Happy Friday, by the way. We are looking at records as we head into the weekend here with the S&P up 15 today. It was a winning week as well, up just about 1.4% on the week on the S&P. But right now, 4185, again, a record of 0.36%, bringing the year-to-date gain to 11.4%. The Dow also at a record of 164, higher by 0.5%. NASDAQ up 13, a gain there of 0.1. 10-year yield 1.58%. Stocks end the week at records as Chinese growth data adds to signs of a global economic recovery. S&P capped its fourth straight weekly advance as strong data from Asia joined a raft of robust readings in the U.S. economy. Well, as for the overall market backdrop, Erin Brown is portfolio manager at PIMCO.
You will see, some rotation out of the sectors that have done well. Seen a lot of rotation year to date as well as at the back half of last year. That's going to continue, but we do think that the equity market will continue to rally through year end and continue to end at all-time highs.
Gold up $12 the ounce today, up 0.7% to $17.75. West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.6%, $63.09 for a barrel of WTI. Coinbase Global ended its first trading week on a high note, despite being unable to draw the level of investor enthusiasm seen after its direct listing on Wednesday. Coinbase up today by 6%. And Cathie Wood's funds purchased about 3 million shares of Two Simple Holdings. That's the self-driving trucking company that went public yesterday. That's according to a disclosure from the funds. TSP on the ticker, lower today by just about 0.1%. Recapping equities end the day at records. S&P up 15, up 0.4%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, I don't know if you noticed, Coinbase, though, still below its opening price the day of its direct listing.
Absolutely right about that. But again, what a gain today of 6%.
All right, good stuff. Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. Well, earlier this year, Bloomberg reported on how 2/3 of New York City's arts and cultural jobs were gone because of the global pandemic. And we know cultural organizations around the world have been hurt hard because of the shutdown. So we want to talk a little bit about that. And someone who knows about that and whose family has been involved very much in the arts, really is one of the country's iconic dynasties and one of New York City's founding families. We're talking about the Vanderbilt family, and joining us right now is Consuelo Vanderbilt Costin. She's a philanthropist, she's an entrepreneur, she's co-founder of Soho Muse, which is a professional networking website for the global creative community. She joins us on the phone from Los Angeles. Consuelo, nice to have you here on Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio. How are you? And what's your year
been?
Hi, Carol. Hi. What is your last...
Lovely to meet you.
Well, same here, virtually. How has your year been like?
I think, as with everyone, it's been incredibly challenging. I'm so grateful that both family and friends, that everyone's healthy now. But, it's been just awful to watch, and I think just, I say that in one breath, obviously, for the fatality rate and what's happened. But on a positive note, I also look at, I think there's been a lot of incredible growth and changes, and I hope that kind of keeps the lessons that we've learned. I mean, keeping things simple and small, right?
Right. Fingers crossed, right, that we actually, have learned something from this unfortunate time and come out better on the other side.
Exactly.
One thing I want to ask you, you do work with an organization, you're a co-founder of Soho Muse. Talk to us about this role, because you have a front row seat when it comes to folks in the art world who are involved in, the arts and culture. So tell us about kind of some of their stories. And I mean, I can only imagine that it's been a rough one this past year.
So, Soho Muse kind of defined as the LinkedIn for creative. It's a membership-based site, and we help and work with all different forms of the creative universe. So from musicians, dancers, writers, actors across the gamut, knowing that creatives really work in projects. So if I'm putting together a music video, a feature film, we really help to procure job opportunities. We've just actually opened up a younger generation here called Soho Muse World for kids at 14 and upwards, and bringing in a whole mentorship and masterclass program to really help them. And so, it's our world is kind of a 360 universe. And right in the beginning of the pandemic, we really started to see that a lot of our Broadway stars, artists that are normally on tour, were suffering so much. So we created this series called Saves, which is just extraordinary, where artists like Tiffany, if you remember her.
Yeah.
She sold over 12 million albums, and her doing acoustic performances, which she's never done before. And so she was really able to showcase a whole other side to her, to her fan base. And that was amazing. And each one of our members who performed made money and created, we did sound checks the night before to make sure that they were ready and taken care of. So that became a very rewarding and fulfilling experience to see that. And a lot of them normally would never do this, and they were nervous in the beginning, and then it actually became, their outlet to be able to.
Forgive me. Well, no, I want to jump in for a second because I'm listening to what you're saying, and I do wonder how much. What's interesting is you did have performers who were stuck home, and all of a sudden, they would normally be on tour, and I'm sure they can't wait to get back out on tour. But it was kind of interesting to see another way for them to reach their fans by being able to perform virtually. And I do wonder, do you think some of that stays with us on the other side of the pandemic, not replacing, in-person performances, if you will, but it's just another way to kind of reach out and maybe give access to people who maybe can't afford a ticket to something. It's just another venue. And just got about 45 seconds, and then we'll come back and chat some more.
Carol, I absolutely believe that it's going to be something that will be used. And kind of, I think that where artists have actually found, comfort, and even, whether it's testing new songs and doing things in a very, very different medium than they normally have done. I think this will absolutely be something that will surpass the pandemic. And again, I think it's seeing an artist in a different light, and I think it's very intimate and wonderful, and so.
Oops, I think we have a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we're gonna go do some world and national news, and then we'll come back and continue with Consuelo Vanderbilt Costin. She's a philanthropist, as I mentioned. She's an entrepreneur, co-founder of Soho Muse, and we'll continue our conversation right here on Bloomberg Radio. Just a quick reminder of how we closed on this Friday, wrapping up the trading week. We saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 164 points. That's about a gain of 0.5%. S&P 500 up 15 points, just up 0.4%. NASDAQ, call it little change, just up 13 points, but each of those major equity averages up more than 1% for the week overall. Let's get another check on world and national news. Over to Nancy Lyons. She's in D.C. Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Carol. The suspect in last night's mass shooting at an Indianapolis FedEx facility that left 8 people dead was a former employee at the facility, and police say he had 8 guns seized by authorities last year. Deputy Police Chief Craig McCart says the gunman killed 8 people before taking his own life, and he says the shooting started in the parking lot.
This suspect came to the facility, and when he came there, he got out of his car and pretty quickly started some random shooting outside the facility.
McCart says he then went inside and continued shooting. He says it was all over in just a couple of minutes. The Biden administration says the U.S. is setting up a $1.7 billion national network to identify and track worrisome coronavirus mutations that are spreading and could trigger another pandemic wave.
Even as we accelerate our efforts to get shots in arms, more dangerous variants are growing, causing increases in cases with people without immunity.
The administration's COVID coordinator, Andy Slavitt, says variants now account for nearly half the coronavirus cases in the country. Officials say now the U.S. has administered 200 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine. It took the U.S. 89 days to administer the first 100 million. The second 100 million has come in just 36 days. Cuba will not have a leader with the last name Castro for the first time in 6 decades. Raul Castro, Fidel Castro's brother, is confirming that he is stepping down as the head of the country's Communist Party. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons.
If knowledge is power, the Bloomberg Terminal is your power up, connecting you to real-time financial data, market-moving news, powerful analytics, and an influential network of financial decision-makers around the world. Share ideas, negotiate trades, and gain the insight you need to make more informed decisions. See how the Terminal can take your workflow to the next level at Bloomberg.com/professional.
The lifeblood of tech startups isn't just money. It's executive and technical skills. The kind of skills that companies need to build real products. And the skills that venture capitalist Chris Sugden of Edison Partners sees in the graduates that are coming out of New Jersey Institute of Technology.
The amazing thing about NJIT is their graduates, they have multiple offers on average, not just one. They're coming out with real skill sets that are immediately hireable and available to them. I think we see an understanding by the faculty and administration at NJIT that we've got to train and educate the whole student, not just their, one side of their brain. And I do think that's sort of part of the DNA today. There's practical and there's sort of academia, and merging those two together and understanding that if we're going to have our young people go get great jobs and have great successful careers, they've got to have both sides of their brain activated. And I think we see that with NJIT.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
The hard part was determining that I was going to do it, but I definitely didn't do it alone.
At age 30, with the help of her mentor, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
I have a mentor, Maria. She convinced me to continue my education and finish what I started to get my diploma. Just never judges. She's a true role model. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
The world's financial decision makers connect on the Bloomberg Terminal. The buy side and the sell side together, collaborating across markets and countries in real time, sharing ideas, negotiating trades, and forming an influential network of over 325,000 financial professionals that helps power global markets. Isn't it time you join them? Request a demo at bloomberg.com/professional.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, President of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
What's the true value of your custodial relationship? Ben Harrison of BNY Mellon's Pershing explains.
As sophisticated investors demand more from their advisors, advisory firms, in turn, need to rely on their custodian to help them grow their complex businesses. At BNY Mellon's Pershing, supporting the rapid growth of RIAs is our #1 priority. We understand what it means to deliver true value to our clients who are looking for a custodian that is aligned with their best interest and delivers high-value solutions, all in an open architecture environment with flexibility, choice, and transparency. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength, resiliency, and high-touch service that BNY Mellon Pershing provides. When you work with Pershing, we put your business first. Can your custodian say that?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Pershing Advisor Solutions, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC.
This is Daniel Blazer. I'm a trustee of the Jewish Communal Fund and chair of the Special Gifts Committee. Back in March, when the world came to a grinding halt with the coronavirus crisis, I turned to the Jewish Communal Fund to make grants to charities that were important to me. Our community of fund holders responded generously, and so did JCF. Through our Special Gifts Fund, which functions like an endowment, JCF made a grant of $1 million to UJA Federation of New York and the Metropolitan Council on Jewish Poverty to fight food insecurity and provide much-needed assistance to Holocaust survivors and single parents who have been impacted by the crisis. If you are not using a donor-advised fund for your giving, now is the time. Working with the Jewish Communal Fund is easy. It's convenient, it's efficient, and it enables you to focus on your charitable giving, especially in difficult moments like these. To find out how JCF can maximize your charitable impact and reduce your tax burden, visit jcfny.org.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg World Headquarters. I'm Charlie Pellet. Stocks end the week at records on economic optimism. S&P up 15, up 0.4% to 4,185. The Dow up 164, up 0.5% to 34,200. Nasdaq higher by 13. That was a gain of about 0.1%. 10-year down 3/30 seconds. 10-year yield 1.58%. Gold up 0.7, 17.75 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 0.5%, lower by 32 cents a barrel, 63.14 on WTI. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the update. Charlie Pellet there with a Bloomberg Business News Flash. I want to get back to our guest. Still with us is Consuelo Vanderbilt Costa, and she's a philanthropist. She's an entrepreneur. She co-founded Soho Muse, which is a professional networking website for the creative community. And she's still with us on the phone in Los Angeles. Consuelo, we talked about how some of what artists had to do during the pandemic, whether it's virtual performances, that it stays with us. And maybe perhaps that creates another revenue stream, especially maybe even for, starting out artists or younger artists or smaller artists. And I do think it could be a very productive outcome on the other side of the pandemic. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree. And I think, just as you said, for this younger talent, it's giving them an opportunity to test out new materials, to increase, kind of their fan base, and to learn how it actually feels in a way to, be raw and vulnerable, which is, the wonderful thing about being an artist. And so, yeah, I really do. I think that as I said, I think this is going to be something that absolutely is post-pandemic. We look at YouTube, and my goodness, Justin Bieber was discovered that way, right? So I think that, right? So that, I think that a lot of great things will be coming from that. I do.
Hey, one thing I want to also ask you about, and this is something that you're involved in as well, and that is sustainability when it comes to fashion. We have had several interviews on our air with authors of books, researchers, and folks in the fashion industry, just looking at the impact that fashion has on our climate specifically. Tell us a little bit about your work there and what you're working on.
So, Carol, I'm very excited. We also created this amazing voice panel series that spawned in a way because, Soho News is a site about creatives and about, understanding, and, we're very neutral. So we are able to have multiple different discussions in this type of safe environment. So we actually did a BLM event with Becky Fresh and Ja Rule. And so I was approached by Sergio Guatemala, who's an amazing fashion designer, who's runner-up on Project Runway. And he said this is something that's very, very important to him. And so we have two producers, the Parvati Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that all specializes in the Arctic and protection organization I would love to tell you more about. And Sergio, so they are both helping to produce this event. We've got an incredible panel of speakers, both scientists and designers who are really making an impact and making a change. We actually have the Prince Charles Foundation, which is also there, and it's absolutely extraordinary what they're doing. They're actually helping children to learn how to sew at a very young age, and actually what the products and using recyclable products. And they go home and talk to their parents about it, and they talk to their friends about it. And so it's starting at a young age and creating and evoking the change. So at Soho News, they're very proud to be able to host events, and to support it.
Well, it's interesting too, and I feel like the more conversations and awareness, we've all seen the stories about how much water it takes to make a pair of jeans, and you do see more fashion houses in particular. I was just talking with the CEO of Tapestry this week. Sustainability, it's certainly part of, their vision and their mission in terms of the impact on the environment, but we are increasingly seeing where we need to have industries, whether it's the fashion industry, whether it's the energy industry, different industries really get actively involved if we're going to move the needle on this.
I so agree with you. And again, the more conversations that are being had, the more aware we become, right? And the thing is, it's obviously affecting all of us. And I think we just need to be much more conscious.
So since it's our last interview of the week, it's a Friday, it's been quite a crazy week. I've got to ask you.
I'm sure. Yes.
I want to ask you about being part of really an iconic family in our nation's history, the Vanderbilt family. Tell us, what it's like to kind of grow up with that name and think about the legacy of it.
I love this question.
I'm sure you've been asked a lot, but we're always curious.
No, but I like your question. So I have been so blessed that I was raised by my mother and my stepfather, he's a very well-known film producer, and he actually, when he married my mom, he was a self-made man. And he went on to becoming George Lucas's producing partner and did all of Star Wars. And so he taught me absolutely the essence of hard work and being very proud of everything you make in life. And the reason that I bring that up is because I look at my mom's side of the family, which is the Vanderbilt side, and it is absolutely an honor, especially living in New York, to be a part of this family, to be able to walk down and see Grand Central and, all the iconic things that my family has really made and created. But I feel like I was blessed with being taught that nothing gets handed to you and really about hard work. Because, there can often be a perception of people thinking that may not be the case. And so it's always been really important to me and very proud about my values, especially even as an artist, that I really only ever used my own name and I didn't use the Vanderbilt name. I wanted to be known for my words and for my songs and who I was. And I feel that the big message actually is part of my family too, to be individuals. There's some extraordinary, very, very strong women. And I feel very proud to have inherited that name from, my great-grandmother, her name was Consuelo Vanderbilt Earl, and she was named after Consuelo, the Duchess of Marlborough. And these were just really pioneer, iconic women, making a change and making a difference in society. So,
right. Well, and it's seventh generation descendant of Cornelius Vanderbilt. I do also think about, people in position, whether you're a celebrity, whether you're from an iconic family like yours, where it's a last name that everybody knows, whether you're a CEO of a company, we're in this era, and just got about a minute left to wrap up, where we have a lot of big issues, whether it's gaps in wealth, whether it's racism, inequities. What do you see, just quickly, is the responsibility of leaders or people that have a platform to talk out about them? And again, just got about 40 seconds.
I think that it's absolutely, it's our responsibility. Right? That when you do have a platform that you can actually make a difference, that you can highlight areas. Listen, there's so many issues and there's so many problems in the world, and it's very hard to take on everything.
Right.
But I think that things that are really close to you, that you can really make a difference. I've been the vice president of the Ovarian Cancer Coalition for many years, and my mother passed away sadly from ovarian cancer. It's something that's very true to my heart, something that I can be very passionate about. So I think it's that. I think it's finding the things that are important to you. You absolutely are responsible to make a message and to make an impact.
I totally agree. Hey, listen, thank you so much. A real pleasure and a great way for us to wrap up our week. Be well, be safe. Consuelo Vanderbilt Costin, she's philanthropist and entrepreneur at Soho Muse, on the phone from LA. We are standing by for a press conference with President Biden and the Prime Minister of Japan, Prime Minister Yoshihide. We will, of course, be monitoring it and take you there live, and also bring you some of the headlines from that event. From our whole Bloomberg Business Week team, it's been quite a week. Hope you have a good weekend lined up. I'm Carol Masser. For my co-host, Tim Stanovic, have a good, safe weekend, everyone. This is Bloomberg.
We make learning.
The world's financial decision makers connect on the Bloomberg terminal. The buy side and the sell side together, collaborating across markets and countries in real time, sharing ideas, negotiating trades, and forming an influential network of over 325,000 financial professionals that helps power global markets. Isn't it time you join them? Request a demo at bloomberg.com/professional.
From the best possible every week.
That's not typical for a CEO, is it?
Barry Ritholtz hosts Masters in Business.
That's not an evolution?
Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
This is a Bloomberg Presents Look at Luxury. Although Switzerland reigns supreme in watchmaking, that hasn't always been the case. Up until World War II, Britain produced some extraordinary timepieces. Now it's staging a comeback. Last month, Braemont Watch Company opened The Wing. It's a 35,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility where it machines cases and movement components and assembles its timepieces. If your taste vacillate between Star Trek and traditional, De Bethune, an independent Swiss manufacturer, has a $250,000 timepiece for you. It's DB Kind of 2 Tourbillon, which features 2 different dials that flip over with a flick. In other collecting news, Sotheby's first NFT auction wasn't exactly a win. Still took in $16.8 million, but it wasn't exactly a blowout either. Christie's Beeple sales took in 4 times that last month. There's still a hunger for NFTs, even if the appetite might be slowing. Visit BloombergPursuits.com for more. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Hey y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires, which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire. And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
The only way to start the morning is with optimism.
The jobs recovery was sluggish. A lot of people agree on that.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene, Jonathan Farrow, and Lisa Abramowitz.
Finally, we got some Abramowitz gloom to get in there.
The ultimate south signal might be when Lisa capitulates.
Bloomberg Surveillance. Must listen, must watch.
Lisa, your data point, go.
Tom, you're great. Never change.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio and Bloomberg Television. Broadcasting 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is Bloomberg Radio. Live from our nation's capital, this is Bloomberg Sound On.
Talking about a huge issue here is investment in marginalized communities.
They want to deconstruct this package and cherry pick what they like and what they don't like.
China is surging forward with major investments.
Bloomberg Sound On. The insiders, the influencers, the insights.
Biden has promised again and again that he will unite the country.
Who do you think Biden has to watch in terms of moderate defectors?
Infrastructure has always been bipartisan.
Bloomberg Sound On Bloomberg Radio.
I'm Rick Davis, and coming up on the show today, we talk to Jeannie Sean Zeno, my political contributor, and listen in on the Biden Yoshihide Suga press conference. Japanese Prime Minister, first meeting with the president. But first, let's get the market update from Charlie Pellet.
Very much, and here's what's going on. We've got the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all advancing right now. S&P at a record today, up 15, ending the week, heading into the weekend at 41.85, a gain of about 0.4%. The Dow up 164, also at a record, up 0.5%. NASDAQ up 13 today, no record there, but up 0.1%. Worth pointing out that so far this year, the Dow up 11.7%, S&P up 11.4%, NASDAQ up 9% for the year. Today we saw the NASDAQ 100 index advance by 0.1%. Fourth weekly gain, by the way, for the S&P as the strong economic data out of China joined a raft of robust readings in the U.S. economy that's boosting sentiment. 10-year yield 1.57%. We've got gold up $12 the ounce at $17.76, up 0.7. West Texas Intermediate crude lower by 0.5%, 63.13 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That Rick Davis is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thanks, Charlie. I'm Rick Davis, along with Bloomberg Politics contributor Jeannie Sean Zeno, my partner here. And we're joined on a panel today by Lester Munson, a principal at BGR Group. Lester has extremely good background in foreign policy. In fact, served as a staff director of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, a very important post, and one that is particularly important today, seeing that this is the first time President Biden will meet formally with a prime minister of another country. As we said in the tease, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, the Prime Minister from Japan, is visiting the White House to talk about a raft of issues, and we'll be digging in on that today. But I first want to turn to Jeannie and say, Jeannie, what do you think? Is this going to help Joe Biden today, having a big press conference with an ally in Asia?
I think it's incredibly important. It has been a big foreign policy week, and that's why it's so good we have Lester on. It's been a big foreign policy week for the Biden administration as we got the announcement about Afghanistan, and then, of course, the sanctions on Russia. And today, this big meeting, and of course, next week, we're looking forward to what is truly, I think, going to be a high point of his administration so far, which is the climate meeting. And, of course, still waiting to see, does Vladimir Putin, agree to go or not? But to your point, I think this is incredibly important. Prime Minister Suga comes to the United States. There's questions about the Olympics going forward. They have a COVID resurgence over there. But this is a country that has agreed to some really important deals and initiatives on climate change. So I think it's an important first step for this administration as we look towards next week.
Yeah, I'd like to bring in now Lester Munson, principal at BGR Group, and an individual who spent really his entire career in foreign policy issues. And Lester, I want to ask you, I mean, today is a really big day for the White House, and with a very important ally. Indo-Pacific region has been really one of the main topics in the first 100 days of the Biden administration. What is at risk today? What do we hope to hear here just momentarily with the president and the Prime Minister Suga?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Okay. I know it's a great question, but I'm actually not hearing a response. So
you stunned him into silence, Rick Davis.
Yeah, it's the intimidating feature of my hosting today. So I wanted to continue on that conversation with him. We know that the Biden administration has put enormous amount of resources toward the Asia-Pacific region, the Indo-Pacific region. They launched the Quad, which was the first time Australia, Japan, India, and the U.S. met as an organized group, demonstrating their bilateral relationship, trilateral, quadrilateral relationship. And Secretary Austin and Secretary Blinken are... But right now we'll be going to the White House, where the President and the Prime Minister Suga from Japan will be holding a press conference.
Suga to the White House. This is our first in-person meeting here, the first head of state that I've asked in my administration to come to the White House. Yoshi, thank you for making the long trip to Washington. We've already met several times virtually at a G7 meeting and a Quad Leaders Summit, but I greatly appreciate the chance to spend time with you in person and to exchange our ideas face to face. There's no substitute for face-to-face discussions. We are still taking COVID precautions, being careful, but our commitment to meet in person is indicative of the importance, the value we both place on this relationship between Japan and the United States, this partnership. We had very productive discussions today. When nations as close as ours get together, we always look for operations and opportunities to do more. And today was no exception. So Yoshi, you'll probably be seeing a lot more of me in the future. Today, Prime Minister Suga and I affirmed our ironclad support for U.S.-Japanese alliance and for our shared security. We committed to working together to take on the challenges from China and on issues like the East China Sea, the South China Sea, as well as North Korea, to ensure a future of a free and open Indo-Pacific. Japan and the United States are two strong democracies in the region, and we're committed to defending and advancing our shared values, including human rights and the rule of law. We're going to work together to prove that democracies can still compete and win in the 21st century. We can deliver for our people in the face of a rapidly changing world. So today, we're announcing a new competitive and reliance partnership, CORE, between Japan and the United States that will enhance our ability to meet the pressing challenges of our time, together meet those challenges. Top of our agenda is, of course, getting the pandemic under control and helping our friends and neighbors throughout the Indo-Pacific region to recover. Earlier this year, we, together with India and Australia, launched the landmark Quad Vaccine Partnership to expand the manufacturing of COVID-19 vaccines and assist countries throughout the region with vaccination efforts. And we agreed to enhance our support for global vaccination efforts through the ACT Accelerator and COVID Facility. We're also going to do more beyond this pandemic to advance longer-term goals for health security, reform of the World Health Organization, and establishing a new partnership on health security to build better preparedness for the next pandemic, because there will be others. Secondly, Japan and the United States are both deeply invested in innovation and looking to the future. That includes making sure we invest in and protect the technologies that will maintain and sharpen our competitive edge. And those technologies are governed by shared democratic norms that we both share. norms set by democracies, not by autocracies. So we're going to work together across a range of fields, from promoting secure and reliable 5G networks to increasing our cooperation on supply chains for critical sectors like semiconductors, to driving joint research in areas like AI, genomics, quantum computing, and much more. Thirdly, our nations are committed to taking aggressive action to meet the threats of climate change. Next week, I'll be hosting the Climate Leaders Summit, which Prime Minister Suga also plans to attend, thankfully, to rally key nations of the world to making ambitious climate commitments in the lead-up to Glasgow Summit later this year. Japan and the United States are both committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050, and we know to do that will require setting and meeting our 2030 goals. And we'll work together to advance clean energy technologies and help nations throughout the Indo-Pacific region, especially developing countries, develop renewable energies and decarbonize their economies. And finally, both Prime Minister Suga and I value the incredible partnership that exists, not just between our governments, but between the Japanese people and the American people. Last month, we jointly marked the 10th year anniversary of the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear disaster that cost so many lives in Japan. I visited that area shortly after it happened. In our private lunch, the Vice President, the Prime Minister and I talked about when I was Vice President visiting the families in the region to show support of the United States. We continue to mourn the loss of all those folks and to honor the extraordinary joint effort between Japan and the American people in the wake of that tragedy to recover and to rebuild. And those personal bonds of friendship and connection, they're the ones that are going to keep this alliance strong and vibrant for decades to come. And I'm especially proud that today we agreed to resume what is called the Mansfield Fellowship Program, to promote people-to-people connections between our countries. Before Mike Mansfield, who was a beloved ambassador to Japan, became ambassador, he was a mentor of mine when I came to the Senate after my wife and daughter were killed. And he helped me along in ways I can't even explain in the United States Senate. And I'm proud that this legacy continues to be honored as part of the close, enduring partnership between our nations. And Yossi, I know how proud you are of the people of Japan are. And you've got a Japanese boy coming over here, and guess what? He won the Masters. He won the Masters. He won the green jacket. And Matsuyama was the first Japanese player to take home that green jacket at the Masters tournament this week. So let me say congratulations, Japan, as well on that feat. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for making the trip. I look forward to all that Japan and the United States will accomplish together in the coming years. It was a great honor having you as the first head of state in my administration. The floor is yours.
この度ここワシントン DC への訪問を実現できたことを大変嬉しく思います。温かくお迎えいただいたバイデン大統領とハリス副大統領に心から感謝申し上げます。そして準備にご尽力をいただいたすべての米政府
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he just isn't already. He drank some wine one night, got ordained.
Yeah, he just is like, oh yeah, I think I've got a certificate in my email somewhere.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, 2014, here it is.
Yeah.
So that's a backup plan. See, I'm always seeking solutions here.
Yes.
Now, Kat, I want to ask you about two topics here before we let you go. One is something that we discussed in this home stretch segment coming up at the end of the hour. It's our final segment of each show. We did it yesterday. This poll from YouGov about the best and worst states in America ranked. And they did it an NCAA tournament bracket style where it's head-to-head matchups all the way down. And dead last is Washington, D.C. at 51.
Yeah.
In first place is Hawaii. Your native Michigan is 20th in the country, so a little above average. Do you have strong feelings on that? Do you have strong feelings about what the best and worst states / districts ought to be?
Well, Detroit is the best city in the world.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Whatever they think, people think Vegas is fun. Detroit, whatever you're doing is fine. You know? Like, if you get away with whatever. I like cities. That's the thing. I like cities. I love cities. But the problem is they don't exist anymore. Like New York, for example, New York City, the city that never sleeps, is now always sleeping. And, like, you know, you pay a little extra. You can live around and, like, but a lot of bands come here. You go to a concert. You can go to a bar, then another bar, then another bar, then another bar, etc. Now, all you can do is, like, sit there with a mask on at a restaurant, and then, like, you have a 90-minute time limit to, like, eat and drink, and then you go back home, and that's your life.
Can I just point out that the way that you just said "et cetera" had some major Moira Rose vibes from S Creek?
I take that as a compliment. I take that as a compliment.
David. That's how that sounded right there. So props to that. So, but you think that Michigan at 20, you're not terribly offended by that?
I like Michigan a lot because I love Detroit. I mean, I love Detroit. And then, like, there's also the Great Lakes, you know, and whatnot. I wish I could, live in Detroit in the summer, like, someday.
I mean, that is something certainly to aspire to for some.
It'd be a great
it's not
place
for everyone.
to recover from butt implants on the Great Lakes.
You'll never find me in Detroit. I'll be back in. Well, that's you. I'm not saying I would never go to Detroit. I've been to Detroit several times.
I would love to be the mayor of Detroit someday.
You know, I feel like there might be a few barriers to that for you.
Many barriers. I mean, I've said some things that people might find, insane.
You don't live there.
I don't live there. Whatever.
You're a libertarian.
I'm a libertarian.
Right? I mean, it's sort of, there's a few strikes against you. Last question, and this goes
I'm really an anarchist. I say libertarian so I can keep this job, but go ahead.
You're not an anarchist. You live in a nice, shiny apartment. Right, you're not, like, lighting on fire to, stick it to the man or whatever. And you pay your rent and you pay your taxes.
Yeah,
right?
but
you're not an anarchist.
Yeah, but I'd love to just live in the woods with a gun. Except then how would I get attention?
You just said that you love cities.
Right.
And how would you get attention?
That's the thing. That's why I wouldn't love it. Because
the anarchy thing, you're sort of rethinking this on the fly, which I like.
Yeah.
Sort of some self-reflection with Kat Timpf here on the show. Last but not least, Kat, we talked earlier in the show today about friendships and relationships that can be strained or even broken by politics. And I know that you've dealt with this in your life a few times. Do you have one or two very quick tips when there is a big fundamental problem politically between yourself and someone that you are close to? How do you make sure that that doesn't ruin a relationship, and or is there a moment where you just have to pull the plug?
There is a moment where you have to pull the plug. It can be really hard. For me, it was, with my best friend of 13 years, and I don't talk anymore. And the breaking point for me was when you realize you can't have a conversation that's going to be open and honest and about logic. He told me that he had been lying to me, and I had busted him lying to me, and he basically said he had to lie about things growing up because his background, because he was gay to hide. So me saying that I wanted him to be honest was a sign of my privilege, and that's when I stopped responding. Because you have to have values in any relationship, friendship. I think a huge one is honesty and trust. And if you can't have open, honest conversations, if it seems like they're just trying to jab you or get to you, and to put themselves up on this, fluff themselves up on some moral superiority pillow rather than actually work on the friendship, then you're wasting your time.
I think producer Christine is taking notes as we speak, because we were talking about an issue that she's dealing with earlier in the show. People can go back and listen on the podcast for free at GuyBensonShow.com. Tuning in tonight, of course, later this evening, 11 p.m. Eastern, for Gutfeld! With co-host Kat Timpf, our friend here on the Guy Benson Show Happy Hour. Kat, this was great. And yes, let's make sure that there's some Timpf time soon.
Oh, I will make sure.
I don't have an option.
Yeah.
There's no alternative.
I'm going to go talk to Joan and Holly. Where's Guy? Where's he staying?
I should actually send them a directive. I need a new contract that this stuff is never, ever shared with anyone, especially a certain diminutive blonde with large glasses. Tell her
there
nothing.
There aren't that many hotels around here.
It's going to go room to room.
Rude. Butt implant stories. Great. Thank you for that, Guy.
Kat Timpf on the Guy Benson Show. We'll be right back.
Guy Benson will be right back.
Которая, безусловно, на украинском языке.
At least some type of golf bat. You're in the driving seat now, Britain. Cinch. Cars without the faff. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Price based on 12,000 miles per year.
Can you keep a secret? Sun Super Days are back with the greatest heist in history. Collect codes inside the Sun and experience Gangster Granny the Ride with 2 free tickets to Alton Towers Resort worth over £100. Only question is, can you escape? Start collecting for your free tickets. Pick up the Sun this Saturday. T's and C's apply.
The day has come for Joe to make space for his new laptop. What a sleek and powerful machine. But instead of putting his new machine to the test, The day has come for Joe to make space for his new laptop. What a sleek and powerful machine. But instead of putting his new machine to the test, he's worried sick. It's already got a virus. Why, Joe? Why get something so great just to leave it open to attack? Well, worry no more. Only BT Broadband gives you expert security with tools worth over £100 to help protect you from cyber attack. Search BT Broadband. BT Beyond Limits.
Terms apply. Verify bt.com/verify security.
Booking a hotel is never easy. Am I getting the best price? Will it look anything like the pictures? Well, with Premier Inn, you don't have to worry about any of that. Because with us, you know exactly what you're getting. A great night's sleep, over 800 easy-to-find locations, a choice of great value, flexible rates, and as much brekkie as you can handle. So enjoy a weekend break without breaking the bank. Premier Inn. Rest easy. Only available to book at premierinn.com.
There's something big going on at Tesco. Big brands at small prices. Not just hundreds of Tesco products price matched with Aldi, but lots of big brands too. So you can do a big shop and save yourself a trip. Tesco. Every little helps.
Prices checked and matched on hundreds of comparable products from GBLD stores and or online twice weekly. Prices most often found matched, excluding promotions. Selected stores, excluding Express and Northern Ireland. Products and availability vary by week in store. See tesco.com/Aldi price match.
Julia Hartley-Brewer at breakfast on Talk Radio with up-to-the-minute breaking news, expert guidance and non-stop conversation.
I mean, the guy was, he was a dashing, handsome chap.
Unparalleled radio for unprecedented times.
If you want small businesses to do well and to thrive, you need to allow them to trade and make a profit.
Julia Hartley-Brewer at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 6:30 on Talk Radio. Late night with Christo Fufas on Talk Radio.
Evening all, it's Christo.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I'll bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Newsmax TV, you can buy their book, Uprising, Who the Hell Said You Can't Ditch and Switch, The Awakening of Diamond and Silk. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It's 2:24. Let's go ahead and take a look at the roads.
KBC, dependable traffic, Mission Viejo at the 5 southbound at La Paz, accident, right lane block, stop and go from El Toro. Santa Ana, the 5 southbound at 4th Street. Accident, right lane blocked, traffic stop from Maine. Santa Ana on the 55 southbound after Edinger. SIG alert, crash in the right lane. Traffic stop from Irvine Boulevard. Gardena, the 405 southbound at Normandy. Crash blocking the carpool and left lane. Cars are stopped from Artesia. Norwalk, the 605 northbound after Firestone. Crash on the right shoulder. Stop and go from the 105. Diamond Bar, the 57 northbound before the 60. Crash blocking the carpool lane. That's dependable traffic. I'm Kevin Tripp on AM 790 KABC.
This is your new